Welcome everybody. Today I have the pleasure to show you what JMP is about and what this means for academic users. So this webinar is designed for professors in mind, teaching with data. But if you are not teaching, maybe not academic, or if you know JMP already, don't hang up. I will have some useful information for you as well. So during this hour, we will spend most of the time with live demos of some JMP basics, covering basic navigation in JMP, data import, some platforms for summarizing and graphing data, and for basic analyses. And I will also give you some tips, especially for new users. And before wrapping up, I will also give you some pointers to our resources for getting started. So, welcome to JMP, which first version was released by SAS Institute in 1989. And in JMP, graphing and analyzing data is more like a journey, what we call statistical discovery. On one hand, and important in teaching, JMP is easy to use. And this quote from Oxford says it all. So first, there are very few user issues because JMP is so easy to use and intuitive. Second, the free resources are great in case of questions. And third, if you really need more help, the SAS technical support is awesome. And on the other hand, and important for researchers, there are no limits, and JMP comes with a dashboard builder, all development tools for custom applications, and with a scripting language called JSL, which also integrates JMP with other software. And in order to start the live demo soon, let me just refer you briefly to jmp.com. So on our homepage, check the software tab to learn about our products, including JMP Pro, Clinical, and Genomics. Check out the application areas of JMP to learn more about use cases in different fields. Click on an area and you get more information, white papers, demos, and more. Check our customer stories to get ideas how JMP is used in industry and in academia. You will see many reasons why JMP skills really matter for your students. And finally, on the JMP academic landing page at jmp.com/why, in 6 60 seconds videos, you will see more reasons to use JMP in teaching and research. Let us jump into the first example now. And by the way, what you see on the left-hand side on my screen, that's a JMP journal, a container for notes, JMP scripts, and other content for presentation, or for collecting your analysis results. And all academic site licenses give you access to the latest version of JMP Pro for Windows and Mac. And on my Mac, I use JMP Pro 13, launched a year ago. And actually, the latest release I have on my computer is 13.2. So the JMP Starter is a more informative menu for new users for easy access to some key JMP tools and platforms. But this also tells you about the exclusive platforms in JMP Pro and some JMP Pro specific features. So now you can lay back and watch the demo. I will click on this button here to open the first data set, and you will get a follow-up email, as Julian mentioned, and this gives you access to a JMP trial version and also to this journal, and you can explore everything on your own later. So welcome to the big class families, one of our sample data sets with data from 12 variables in 12 columns, about 40 kids in a school class. And we see the information for all the kids and their families in 40 rows. So as soon as the data is ready in JMP, first you choose the type of analysis on a quite high level or a graphing type. So for my first analysis, I choose a univariate platform called distribution, and I click this on the Analyze menu. That's the first step. The second step is to assign your variables on the left to the roles they should play in this analysis. And you choose some options, and then as a third step, that's action, I click OK. So this is the first report we see today. So we got 2 bar charts for the categorical columns, and we got 2 histograms for the continuous columns, plus another on the left, another bar chart listing all the names from this class. So maybe an important, at least a unique feature in JMP is if I choose the heavy kids in this class, you see all their other attributes like height and age and sex. And maybe interesting, choosing the heavy weight kids, you see, oh, there's none 13 years old, but there are a few of them which are really young and 12 years old. I can also select the 12 years old group and double click to subset and just get another data table with the 12 years old kids from that class. So the red triangles or hotspots in JMP are really your best friends. And let me show you an example here. So maybe on age, so this is a bar chart, I can add a mosaic plot quite easily. For sex, if you want to see the counts, I can add them on the histogram options, and now we see the exact counts for male and female kids. And oops, there are 2 Roberts in this class, and one is 15 and one of them is 12 years old. But let me just remove the name list on the red triangle, so to keep these 4 outputs. So on the top red triangle, I can stack all of them. The gray red triangles allow me to collapse certain parts. And now we just see the histogram for weight. So here on that red triangle, I could add an outlier box plot, and we see one data point, an extremely high data point. Who is this guy? I can point to that one, and we see this is Lawrence. I can also go back to the red triangle to add other information. So if I'm interested in normality, I could add a normal quantile plot. I could also fit a continuous distribution, so maybe a normal distribution, still following the same question about normality of our data. and we see information about the fit, but we also see the distribution itself, the normal curve on top of the histogram. And this is progressive, so we get another red triangle here for the fitting information. So if I'm interested in the goodness of fit into this test, then JMP knows which statistical test to use to answer this question about the goodness of this fit. And we see that this is the p-value here, which is not significant. And small p-values would reject the null hypothesis. If you don't know what this is mentioned before. So it is the data is from the normal distribution, so there's no reason here to have some concern about that. Let me close this first platform output from the distribution platform, and let's take the other number one from the graph menu, which is the graph builder. This is also great for data exploration. So let's look at our data, maybe a relationship between weight and height. So you see this is a drag and drop. I can click on a graph element on the top, so maybe to fit a line to this relationship. So if I'm interested, how does this relate on to sex? So I can take this variable and maybe put it here. That's not that good. Or wrap, or I can color or overlay. Hey, this is maybe interesting. So we see, yeah, the relationship, the line is different for male and female kids. And you know this guy here. So this is still Robert with the male with extremely high weight in this class. I can start again. So I'm still interested in weight information, but this time by categorical age. So now we see the weight values per age group. And here maybe you want to look at box plots, so to get a more condensed information about this, and or you prefer a contour plot or violent plot in this case. You can still add the data. And again, you can add the sex information here, maybe by overlay or color, and we are done. Remember, it's still selectable, so you can select or multi-select some data. You can even select it on the legend. So now I selected all the male data points, the male kids. And here you see a special column on our data table, which is about reported illness. And this is unstructured text data. And you can even explore text data in JMP using the Text Explorer. So I open that platform. Again, I assign the variable to analyze, which I'm interested in, and I click OK. I just take the default options, which are typically very reasonable in JMP to get you to some good results in the first place. And here we see the terms in our texts, and the top phrase is an upset stomach. Oh, maybe interesting. So a lot of stomach problems, and to visualize this, to explore, I can add the word cloud. And again, this is all connected, so I can select stomach here, and so select all the rows in the underlying data table. We see these are 5 rows now with stomach problems. If you're interested in details, you can also look at all the reported problems about stomach problems and also see the context information by opening the text. Okay, so that's for a first welcome tour, seeing some exploratory tools in JMP and a first data set. So let us proceed with some basic navigation, and let's recap some important things to know when you see and when you want to use JMP for the first time. So what's about what's important about interactivity and the JMP interface? I should mention the home window, which is down here. So this is a navigation console showing all the recent files and the open windows and reports. So if you have many windows, many files open, so this is great for navigating. The application menu is shown on the top. So from left to right, we see the menu. It starts from File, Open, Edit, and then you have the management tools for tables, rows, and columns. Design of experiments, many tools here, but this is a topic of another webinar. And then the Analyze and Graph menus, so the most important ones as soon as you have the data ready in JMP, and then some tools and custom applications and window and help. So here on the View menu, you also see that you can also customize these menus. So if you want to reduce them, rebuild them, that's of course possible. I already showed you the JMP starter, which has an alternative menu, some more information, maybe useful for a first check if you are really new to JMP and want to get an overview about JMP tools and functionality per topic. So the next is about the data and metadata. So the data is shown as like a spreadsheet on the right hand side. So our big class families. We also have one column with pictures here in this example. And what's important is that you can also have some metadata. There's actually some metadata already added to this data table here. So let me select some rows. So row selection, select where, maybe let's take the tall guys. So where the height is greater than 66 inches. And how many are these? Yeah, 6. 6 kids are taller than that. So now they are selected, and you see the row states down here. But the selected rows can also be hidden, which is another state. So that means don't show them in any analysis, and then you get this mask symbol. They can also be excluded, which means don't use them as long as they are excluded in any analysis. I just undo both of them, but that's important to know, and you can exclude, ignore some data for some time, but you don't need to remove the data from your data table. These are some row states. Also columns can have metadata. So here we see name, there's a label icon which tells you, if you right click, so this column, this variable is used for labeling. So if you point to a certain data point, the information from this column will be used to label your data, to show you some information about this data point. But maybe more important is what you can access as column information. And here you see that there are some top information or header information, and there are many column properties, value ordering, value colors, units, specification limits, and so on. Most important here are probably the data type and modeling type. So H is configured as numeric values, so the data will be shown as numeric values, and the scaling for these data uses an ordinal scale. And because this is set to ordinal, you also see the green icon on the left side of this variable. I could change it to nominal or even continuous because this is numeric information, but I set it back to ordinal, so that can be changed quite easily. Okay, so back to our journal. So what's important about interactivity? So maybe the most important takeaways, 3 takeaways, if you're a new user in JMP, are: don't forget about the red triangles. So I just open a sample report using a script. Check out all the red triangles. So they typically provide more information. They allow you to run statistical tests, dig deeper, learn more about your data. So typically the first report is just a starting point, and then you go from there. And the red triangles are the points where to look at. So here maybe I could add an effect summary, and we see that height is more significant in this case than age to explain our data. I could also add some diagnostic information, row diagnostics, and then residual information by predicted. So that's all on the red triangle. The red triangle also allows you to save a prediction formula. If you build a model, you can save the prediction formula maybe to the data table right here to predict on new data. That's the first thing. The second thing is the right mouse click. So that's more or less a hidden feature, but typically everywhere on a report you can right click and then maybe change the background color. If you want to copy this maybe to a poster or anything and you want to highlight it, you maybe want to change the color. But that's obvious, but also on tables like parameter estimates, right click and maybe you can add more information, more columns like variance inflation factor, if that's interesting for you. You can also right click and sort this table maybe by ascending p-value. And if you want to visualize this, analyze it further, you can even right click and make this table into a JMP data table you can then use for other further steps. So that's the right click, and last but not least, don't forget everything is connected. So if I'm again choose the taller guys here, you see that they are all connected in all the graphs, all the reports, and all underlying data tables. So let us say goodbye to our families now, and let's have a look how to get data into JMP. So the first thing to mention are the sample data. You already have a lot of data and data sets on the help menu. Go to help, sample data, and if you're interested in multivariate analysis, check this section here. If you are more interested, or if you are especially interested in the field of medical studies, have a look here. Also the examples for teaching have some nice introductory examples, visualizations like the hurricanes, where you can just run the stored script, and most sample data sets come with a stored script. Run the script to see some sample analyses. So here for wind data, you see hurricanes measured in the US with their strengths and shown over time. So you also see a timestamp there. So that's hurricanes.jmp. There are also some interactive modules, very nice for teaching, showing core statistical concepts, maybe like the confidence interval for the population mean. So here in this example, the population mean is set to 0. And I take 100 samples of size 25. And I choose animation. And we have a confidence level set to 0.95. And now I draw the samples. And for each red interval, you see that the true mean is not covered. And with these 100 samples, 97% include the population mean and are shown in green. And you can relate this information down here to the confidence level, which can be set here. And there's even a help page how to use these tools in teaching and what you can configure and show. They're very nice interactive demo tools. Okay, new data. So of course there's a file menu and you can choose file new, and then you get a new empty data table and you can start to enter data from scratch. Or maybe you have data in Excel already, like this big class Excel spreadsheet, and here you copy the data you want to get over into JMP. I press copy, and then in JMP what's important is don't simply paste, but choose paste with column names to maintain the metadata. And by using that, you see that the header information is used as column titles. Also, a best guess is done for the modeling type, and you can easily change it here and check it, and you are ready to go. So that's if you come from Excel. There are also other ways, and there's an import wizard for Excel files. There's also an import wizard for text files. So if you open a text file or a CSV file, you get to a preview pane and you can check it. You can configure this and move on. And if you're happy with what you see, you click import and you have the data in JMP and import it in the best way. You can also connect to databases and query data from databases without writing SQL. So if you use the JMP query builder, so that's also a drag and drop tool to build queries. But in the special import mechanism, but also very nice in teaching, I think, is the Internet Open. So let me show you this Wikipedia page here about the world population. And we see, if I scroll down, we see a table here which shows the 10 most populous countries. So if you want to get this table into JMP, just copy the URL. And then in JMP, File, Internet Open, paste the URL, and go. So now JMP needs an internet connection, of course, and connects to that web page and sees the HTML table data. And if there are many tables, you can pick the table you are interested in and then you choose OK. So here we have the information. I can also load the pictures by a script which is ready to use. So the pictures are the flags in this case. So we have this bit strange column here which includes the country names for our 10 countries. So to get this, so I should first set this to character data, which is nominal. And now I can easily split it by using a column utility. So split the text into columns, and you see there's a hyphen which can be used as a delimiter here. And then we get several new columns, and this one has the country names. Except China. China had a footnote, so let me remove that one. So now we have this column here with the names, and we have the population data here, and we have the flags. And I use the flags for labeling, and now I can easily use the graph builder, and the second country column, that one has the names, so I can put this in here. And now I take the population values, drop them here, and we are done. So let me maximize it. Maybe you want to change the coloring. Okay. So now we see this is India with a flag, and this is China, and this is. So you see the names and Russia and the flags. That's Internet Open, which really allows you to grab data from web pages very easily and get them into JMP. So let me move on to some platforms for summarizing and graphing data in JMP. And for that I will use another sample data file, and this has some world demographics. That's also the name of this file. There are also some stored scripts, as you see here, and 32 columns, 239 rows. So if this is a new data set to you, a good idea is maybe to use the columns viewer to check all the variables, especially if you have many variables in one data set. Use the columns viewer, and then I choose the data, maybe just to here, and I show the summary information. And then you see summaries. So you see the number of categories for categorical data. You see some simple statistics for continuous numeric data, and you can just browse maybe the ranges, minimum, maximum, and for the GDP, oh, we see 70 billion. Wow, that's a huge number. And if you wonder if this is correct, maybe you select it and you can open a distribution right from there for this variable. And then we see, oh yeah, there's an extreme value, extremely high value, and then the next value is below 15 billion, so much less. So who is this guy here? And if you point to it, you see, oh, this is the world. And this is the sum of all the other countries. So, oh yeah, no surprise. So if this is the world, it's maybe a good idea to hide and exclude this row if you want to compare the countries only. So if we now go back to our distribution output, you see, oh, the world is already gone. It's not shown anymore. And if you want to recalculate the graph, so I can switch automatic recalc on. So now the report monitors any changes in the data. And if that happens, it reacts. And in this case, the axis is changed and updated, so to show a better range for the countries. So that is, oops, I don't need that one. This is the distribution output, and that was created from the columns viewer. A nice first tool to explore new data. Another tool to create summary tables is Tabulate. And Tabulate is a platform on the Analyze menu, and this is a drag and drop table creation tool. So if we are interested in maybe the infant and the 5-year mortality rates, I select them and then I can drop them on the table to see some statistics. Initially, JMP thinks maybe the best is to show the sum, but I'm more interested in the mean, so I drop the mean on the sum to replace the statistics, and now we see the mean. I can group it and break it down by a categorical variable development level. So now we see the means, the two means in 4 different groups, which are development level, low to very high. To change maybe the formatting, I use the same decimal format. And okay, so now we have just 2 digits after the comma. And on the right triangle, I can add a chart. So basically this is a table, what you create here, but I can add a chart easily. When I'm done, I click done. And this is maybe the report. And if I'm happy with that, and that's a unique thing on all reports, save this. Save a result, save a report on the top red triangle, save this as a script, maybe to the data table. I choose this and I name it to my Tabulate. So that's the new thing. And now you can close it. You can close the file. You can send it to another user, a colleague. And if they open it, they will find the new script stored here. And you can just run it by clicking on the green triangle, run, and you get back to the same report, which is still interactive. It's not just an image, it's a JMP interactive report. So here you could start again, show the control panel, and then maybe add more information, the population here, and I switch this off and done, and I'm done. And so you can do more and change it and go further. And any version can be saved as a script, which is very, very handy. Number 3 for summarizing and graphing tools is, of course, the Graph Builder. And the Graph Builder is the first tool on the Graph menu. And here I use the territory information, which is the country name, and I can drop it on the map shape drop zone. And then JMP sees the country names, knows about the shape definitions. They are stored and they are also shipped with our software. They can be extended by any other shape definitions you want to use. And now I can use the shape files and the shapes to visualize some other information like population. So I drop the population here. And again, so I typically change this blue-red thing. So this could also be done in the preferences. I will show you later. Maybe again to a white to blue scheme, and we are done. So when we are done, click done. I can maximize this. And now we see that here we have the highest population in China, and then there's also India, and in Germany, where I am based, we only have 80 and some more millions. Okay, at this point I would like to show you 2 generic things, and one is the data filter and the other one is the column switcher. So the data filter is very nice to look just as a subset of data, not at all the data at one time. And you can get a global data filter on the rows menu, data filter. You can also get a local data filter on all the top red triangles in all reports. And now you can filter the data we are looking at. So if we choose the overall life expectancy at birth, and I add this as a filter condition, because this is continuous data, I get a slider. And now I can maybe remove the countries with very low life expectancy at birth. And you see that the African countries are removed first. And if you look just at the countries with highest life expectancy, you see that these are basically North America, Europe, and Australia. So you can add more and more conditions here, but I removed the local data filter. But you could also combine the data filter with this redo tool called column switcher. And the column switcher does something else. It uses one template, one output for other variables as well. So you don't need to create the same graph again and again with other variables, but you can just replace, you can switch a variable by other variables. So I will want to switch the population I see right now, okay, by a number of other continuous variables in my data set. So now I see all the other continuous variables, including population on the left, and now I can walk through the other variables and just look at what we see at the right, and if there's anything interesting, maybe this here, the ratio male to female under 15. So this is highest in the world in China. And that's, as you know, the strategy in China. So there's still a quite high male to female ratio for kids. That's the column switcher. Remember, you can use the local data filter or the column switcher in all reports and also together. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, some tips, especially for new users. So let me show you this variable here. This column has a plus sign. What does it mean? This means that this column has a formula. Yeah, and here you see, click the plus, you see the formula. This is the formula editor, which has a lot of other functions. And if you just look at the probability functions or functions to create random data. So this is a very powerful tool, but unfortunately we don't have the time to look into details. I just want to mention that this is another option to calculate new data and to store formulas in JMP. And this formula column is shown by this script here, distribution for this column, and that's the output here. So let me make it a bit bigger. Right click, marker size, maybe bit bigger. So that's the distribution for this column. And the first tip, don't forget red triangles and the right mouse click. So red triangle, so here the CDF plot, if you want to add this, you could add other information as well. We see the summary statistics down here, but just a few statistics. And you can add more by customizing this on the red triangle. So if you want to see variance, skewness, kurtosis, I click OK. And we see the other information as well. And this is a good example for preferences. So if you want to see this by default and not added on a red triangle every time, so you could configure this in the preferences to customize your JMP installation. So here you see some general settings and reports and styles for graphing, and on platforms you see distribution. So here I changed the color for my histograms, for instance, but this is just one of the very few changes I made. And in distribution summary statistics, so here you would choose the other statistics you would like to see by default. These are the preferences in JMP. So how to export this and how to save your work. So one interesting option is to export this as interactive HTML. And if you have a report open like this, so on the Mac it's File, Export, and then I choose Interactive HTML with data, Next, and then it's stored as an HTML file, and I do this, and then the file is directly opened in a browser, and you see that this is again interactive, and you can collapse things, so it's still an interactive report, but it doesn't need JMP anymore. You can also put it on a website or a PowerPoint slide. If you want to get anything maybe for a presentation or a paper, let me open this cluster analysis, which shows a dendrogram here, so I can change the number of clusters interactively. Maybe this, if this is okay. So if you want to copy this into a Word document, maybe for a paper, first thing is to select what you want, what you need. And this is done by choosing the selection tool, maybe from the tools menu, but it's more easier if you just press the S button for selection. The A is the standard arrow, and then selection. And then you can select what you need, you copy, and then in Word, you don't just paste, but you use paste special. And on a Mac, it's PDF. On Windows, it's enhanced meta file. And then you get a vector graphic. And you can change this, and you see that this is very, very high graphical quality you can use for papers and other publications, of course. So that's how to, just a few examples how to store results or export results from JMP. There's another tool, the question mark. So if you press question mark, the cursor changes into a question mark symbol, and if you now drop it somewhere, you get information about that section. So I dropped it on the dendrogram, and then the context-sensitive help opens and explains what a dendrogram is and how to create it in JMP. Okay, so let me also close this file, and let's move on to a final section, the last section, showing you some first example how to analyze data in JMP. And here we have some car data, so we look at 116 cars, and I would like to show you 3 standard platforms to start an analysis for this data set. So the first is, no surprise, the distribution platform for univariate statistics. I choose Analyze Distribution, and then I choose the variables I'm interested in as Y columns to analyze, and then we see all the information side by side, bar charts and histograms. And if I now click on US cars or Japanese cars, you can easily compare them, and you see that they differ in turning circle, so there's a relationship here. In this data set, we are most interested in horsepower. So if I choose cars with high horsepower, we see that, they typically have a high weight, they have a higher turning circle, but these are not the small cars. No surprise in this case, but it's easy to see relationships even for this univariate platform by clicking. And if you need a test, if you need to run a test, maybe if you want to test for a mean, for weight in this example, so go to the red triangle and choose test for the mean. So here I use a hypothesized mean of 3060. So there's typically a non-parametric test in the same place you could also use, and I click OK. And then the test output is added to the report here. So we see the test statistic calculated and the sample distribution for the mean, and this is the hypothesized mean, and the red thing, this is the actual mean in our data. And here we see that this is significant, so it's not very likely to observe such a mean if this would be the real mean in our population. So there's even an animated tool here, so to change the hypothesized mean and to see how this affects the p-value, you can also change the sample size to see that influence. So this is also a nice teaching tool as well. The second platform I would like to show you is for bivariate analysis. And this is fit y by x. And you see that you have 4 options here depending on the modeling types of your y and of your x variable. So let me show you an example, and then you will see at least 2 of them. So I choose fit y by x. As I said, we are interested in horsepower, and here the 2 are country and type and displacement. So I use them as x variables. One is categorical, one is continuous. And go. So on the left we have a categorical x. So here we have the values per group. A group is the type of a car. And on that side I can add means and ANOVA output. And if you look at the red triangle, so this is a lot about means and comparing means. So you can choose maybe Tukey's honest significant difference test. And the circles already tell you where groups are significantly different concerning the mean, or you can scroll down and you also see a connecting letters report. So you see that the group of small cars, this is really significantly different regarding the mean. On the right hand side you get other options. So this is more about fitting because we have a continuous versus continuous relationship. So here I could fit a line, and you see the line and you see a lot of information down there. You could also maybe show density contours and add other information here. So these are 2 different situations, but it's the same platform, and there are even 2 other output options depending on the types of your data. And finally, the last one is a multivariate and a generic model building tool, which is called Fit Model. On the same menu, Analyze Fit Model. Maybe one step before that, Graph Builder. So if you explore the data, and we were interested in horsepower, how does that depend on displacement? And we see if we fit a line, so the higher the displacement, the higher the horsepower. So there is a trend. Does this depend on country? So I can add country maybe here, here, here. If we overlay, we see yes, this relationship does depend on the country. So for US cars, we have a different relationship than for the 2 other groups. That's maybe interesting to know. So typically you should remember these findings when you start building a model. And that's done by Fit Model. I have to configure this. So I want to predict or explain horsepower depending on the other information we have in our data set. And as we saw, so there's an interaction between country and displacement. So I choose effect screening here. Personality allows you to set other methods for model building, including generalized regression and other methods, mixed models. You could also use cross-validation here by having a validation split in JMP Pro. So there are many more options. I just go ahead and run this model. Yeah, and here we see that displacement is most significant in this model. So it explains horsepower most, and the second place goes to the interaction country times displacement, and weight is not interesting at all, so I could also remove it here. And then going down, so we see the profiler, and that's a core tool in JMP because this helps you to visualize and to understand the model built so far. So this effect here, so this is the displacement. We see a line, we see all lines here for continuous factors, so it's a linear model. We see a steep curve for displacement, so this is a significant effect. I can change the effect, and we see how this changes the predicted horsepower on the left. And we also see, because we have the interaction in our model, that for low displacement cars, US cars are best regarding horsepower, so highest horsepower, if that's the best. And for high displacement cars, US cars have the lowest horsepower. So that's a simple rule you can just get from here using the profiler. And on the red triangle, you could also save the prediction formula to save the formula for this model and to predict on other cars, new cars. Okay, so far about families and cars. Let us move on for the last minute. JMP academic and wrap up. So far we looked at our software, which is really engaging when you teach with data. And if you watch our videos at jmp.com/why, you will see more reasons in addition to the software to use JMP. And one of these reasons is our offering of teaching resources. So these are free resources which assist you in teaching with JMP, and also if you want to learn more. So it's maybe a good idea to look at the webinars, one-page guides in the learning library. You get case studies you can assign to student groups. And there's also a course materials library you can check out. And this gives you access to e-learning courses and instructor materials from SAS Education. But it also has best-of collections for certain topics. So for instance, if you want to teach design of experiments, you get a collection of one-page guides and videos and interactive tools and books you could use in your class. So wrapping up, the academic site license is called JMP Academic Suite, and this is shown here. And today I showed you the tip of the iceberg of JMP's analytical tools, which are also used for real-world problems in industry. And in teaching, professors can really teach concepts. They don't need to worry about teaching the software. And if you teach, your students will be really grateful to be able to use such engaging and interesting software. So what's next? As mentioned earlier, you will receive an email during the next days, and that will give you access to our trial version and to this JMP journal. Then on jmp.com/webcasts, check out the next webcasts on more advanced, more specific topics during the next weeks. And in case you have any questions, please contact us at academic@jump.com.